Welcome to February, everybody. Today is February 1st. We have a full moon in Leo today. We are starting off February with a bang. If you've watched the collective February forecast, you will know that this is a big month, and how exciting is it to start off the month with a full moon. Please have patience with me as I continue to get out the videos by sign. You'll see that they are about 30 to 45 minutes long each. So they do take a lot of time since this is not my full-time job, as I'm not making money at it yet. I do only have time to make about one of those a day. So please be patient as I continue to get out the February forecast by sign. But I will continue doing that. I do hope to have the Taurus one out today. I already have Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries. So please be patient with me. I will try to get a couple of those done each day so that, it's not the middle of the month by the time I get to the last sign. But thank you for watching those, and thank you for watching the February overall forecast as well. But today's video, like I said, is going to get into this full moon February 1st, and it is a pretty powerful one. Not only are we going to talk about what the full moon is doing, but I'm also going to be talking about a little bit about some of the work of Stefan Burns. I've spoken about him before, but I am going to be referencing one of his videos for you guys to go watch too. But let's go ahead and get into it. If you're new here, I'm Sarah at Life with Training Wheels, where I utilize astrology, tarot, and other spiritual and health and wellness tools, such as singing bowls, which I have behind me, tuning forks, like all different sorts of tools to help you on your journey of discovering yourself, of realizing the power that you have to control your own life, to helping you identify and release any self-sabotaging behavior, self-limiting beliefs, and to let go of any victim mentality that you have. To me, life is like a choose-your-own-adventure game, and astrology just kind of helps us see which adventures are being presented to us. So if that sounds like something you can align with, a vibe you can vibe with, then I encourage you to stick around and engage with this video in some manner. Give me a like, a comment, a subscribe, and so that I show up in your feed again. And if you are returning, thank you so much for returning. Your continued support means the world to me. And again, if you can interact with this video in some way, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so if you've watched my videos before, you know I like to take them step by step. So first, let's talk about what a full moon is. A full moon is when the moon is opposite the sun in the sky, and when there's an opposition between planets, it's a time of balancing things. The oppositions are asking for us to make sure that we aren't leaning too heavy on one side, because oppositions, it's at an axis point. So like the first house versus seventh house is a self versus other axis point. And then there's financial access points, our money versus other people's money, etc. And so with this full moon, we'll get to that in a second. So full moons in general are asking us to balance things. It's when the moon is the brightest in the sky, right? Shining a light on things that otherwise we might not see. So they are doing that in our lives as well. They're shining a light on areas that we may have recently been ignoring, right? To bring balance back to wherever we need to bring balance. They're also, if you think of the cycle of harvest, right? A full moon is when the new moon can be thought of as the dark point, the point when you're planting seeds of intention and seeding new beginnings and things like that. And full moons are when things are starting to come to fruition. Goals that you've planted you're starting to see the fruits of the labor. And so with the full moon, it's a time of not only giving gratitude for the things that have manifested for you and recognizing that and having that attitude of gratitude, but it's also a time to look at where things might be out of balance, where weeds might be growing that you need to pull and let go of in order to continue moving forward on your goals and dreams and visions and things like that. So it's a chance to kind of shine a light on what you might otherwise see that might be standing in your way of making headway with where you want to go. So then next we look to see where the full moon is happening. And right now it is happening in the sign of Leo. So Leo is all about courage and joy and leadership, and represents the heart, doing things from our heart center. So being a heart-led leader. It is about being courageous and about finding our joy, right? If we're living from our heart, we should be living in joy. So it also, while it has this leadership energy and leadership quality to it, it also has this quality of play to it too, right? Because joy is play. So it is an energy that can connect us with our inner child and our creativity and those things that we have fun. And being a fire sign, it is passion and things like that as well. So it's a really great energy. And so this full moon is calling us to look at that area of our life where we might need to be engaging in more of our joy and our passion and rediscovering our inner child, and where we might need to be more of a leader and courageous and live more from our hearts. So it can be a very playful and very loving full moon, right? And we want to look at our lives to see where we need to act more in this way, but also what we might need to let go of in this area as well. Like, where are we not living from our heart space? Where are we not being courageous where we maybe should be courageous? Where are we giving away our power to leaders when we could easily hold that leadership role ourselves? Those types of things. And so now I'm going to pull up the chart, and next we will look at the conversations that the full moon is having to the other planets, because while a full moon in Leo happens every year, it does not have the same conversations going on with the other planets each year, and that is what makes each full moon unique. Okay, so this full moon is happening Sunday, February 1st at 3:18 p.m. This is Mountain Standard Time, so adjust for your location on the planet. And you'll see the full moon here at 13 degrees of Leo. And it is in opposition to the sun here at 13 degrees of Aquarius. So you'll also notice at full moons or new moons or whatever, conjunctions, the orb of influence for conjunctions that most astrologers use is about 10 degrees. So the first thing you'll notice is this moon is in opposition to all the personal planets plus Pluto, right? Pluto is at 3 degrees. The sun and the moon are at 13, so that's within 10 degrees. Mercury over here is at 21 degrees, which is also with 10 degrees. So not only is the moon in opposition to the sun, but it also is in opposition to Mercury, which is the planet of our mind, our intellect, our information that we're receiving, our communication, both how we give communication as well as how we listen, our thought processes, our local community, Venus, our finances, our money, our value system, our resources, as well as our relationships, the sun, our ego, our vitality, our drive, what we're here meant to be focusing on, and our Mars, our willpower, our motivation, our drive, our desires, our passions, and then Pluto, which is kind of like Mars on steroids, but Pluto is the planet of transformation, right? It's going into the dark, revealing the truth, revealing things that might be hidden, those types of things. And it's where we, can do intense research, and it's a planet of intensity. And so the moon is opposite all of these things. So where we have been focused on all of these things over here in Aquarius, what does Aquarius represent? Aquarius represents the collective, right? And clearly with everything going on in the world, it's hard not to have our focus, have our mind, have our hearts, have our everything focused on what's going on in the collective, because everything is shifting and shaking and collapsing, and there's so much going on in the collective that's where we are all focused, right? Between the truths that are coming out about all sorts of different things, between the technology that's going on, which Aquarius also represents technology because it represents innovation and change, right? Like Aquarius is where we want to break out of the box, where we want to do things differently. And that is something that we are all focused on, right? Aquarius is ruled by 2 planets. One is Saturn, the structure, the stability, the institutions and organizations and things like that. So it has a lot of structure to it. Aquarius is kind of an enigma in that it likes structure, it likes rules, it likes regulations. But it's also ruled by Uranus, which is the planet of, sudden change and doing things differently and innovation and shaking things on its head. It's taking the foundation, it's taking what's good from the foundation and then innovating and building upon it, creating new systems that will better the old system. So that is the energy that we've been focused on. As we see everything crashing, we're watching and knowing that it needs to crumble in a lot of different ways, but at the same time we're very focused on innovation and survival, and like, okay, well, if all this crumbles, how do we innovate and make it better? So that's where a lot of our focus has been. And with the full moon over here, not only is it helping us shine a light on the things that we might be missing, that we might not be seeing over here. So it's shining a light on basically every aspect of our daily lives, right? And how we engage with our daily lives. But it also is so that we can see it and change it. But it also is shining a light and asking us to pull our hearts and our emotions back over here to Leo, to the energy of living from the heart, right? Instead of living from a place of hate and fear, which there is a lot of over here in the collective energy, to bring ourselves, this full moon is a reminder to bring ourselves back to center, to bring ourselves back to our own heart, to our own emotional center, and also to highlight, like, the other things that Leo represents is courage, right? Where do we need to be courageous in this entire process of what's going on in the world? Where do we need to be a leader where we perhaps haven't felt and haven't had enough courage to be a leader? Where can we show up as a leader, whether that's within our own home or within our own community or whatever? And then I think one of the most important pieces is how to connect to joy as well. Because if we aren't living with joy, if we aren't taking the time to cultivate joy in our lives, then what are we really doing? What is the point of everything, right? One of the points of life is to be happy and to live in joy, and that is where we can truly find abundance. And that's something that I'm definitely seeing in this opposition with Venus, for example, right? Venus represents finances, and a lot of layoffs and things are going on, right? The financial system is crumbling. People are losing jobs and not able to get jobs back in the industry that they've been in, or rather, a lot of people are realizing that they don't want to go back into the industries that they've been working in because it is soul depleting to them, right? It's not something that they have any joy or passion about. And so they're reconnecting with their joy. Like I watched a video, for example, about this person who lost their job. I don't know what industry they were in, but they'd been there for 10 plus years. And at first they were devastated. And then all of a sudden a switch flipped in their mind. And they were like, well, I didn't like that job. This is actually a blessing because it is forcing me to be courageous and to look at the things that I enjoy doing. And they enjoy like restoring furniture, right? So that's what they are going to try to make their living at now, is doing the thing that they love to do. And so I think there's a lot of that going on, is reconnecting with the passion that and with our joy, right? What brings you joy? Do more of that. Step away from, take a break from, disengage from what is going on in the collective, enough that you can reconnect with your joy, enough that you can shut it out for a while and reconnect. But it's also, this full moon is also asking us to understand where we need to lead more from our hearts and not fear, and more from our hearts and seeing people, right? Seeing ourselves, but also seeing other people, living from our heart. And then where can we be more courageous, and where do we need to step into leadership roles? So that is a lot of what this is highlighting. And it's just amazing that it is, every aspect, right? And with the full moon being opposite Pluto, and Pluto already, being a planet of shining light into things, like this is, and being conjunct, the sun too, like this is all sorts of light being shown on truths that are coming to light, right? There might be a lot of stuff coming to light, such as the Epstein files, or there could be more things happening, like as far as finances and resources. Right before recording this, I saw something about, we've been having the fluctuations in the dollar and silver and things like that, but I saw something about how Trump is having some resource wars and stuff like that, and we are, the largest exporter now of oil. That's big. Like, that's big with our resources. So there's a lot of things, and this is technology as well. And Mercury is also technology and communication and things like that. So social media, the internet, AI, all of those things. Mars is, of course, war and on a global scale, right? And in our own personal lives, it's our willpower, our motivation drive, where we're willing to fight for things like that. So there's a lot of, both within the collective and within ourselves, there's a lot of light being shown onto these areas. Where can we be more innovative, but doing so from a heart-centered approach? How can we bring our joy? How can we bring more joy and more light into the world, right? If everybody lives more from their heart space, more from joy, the happier this world will be. But I think a lot of times people simply actually have a hard time knowing what brings them joy. We get so wrapped up in the collective, we get so wrapped up of what's happening outside of ourselves, that we need to take the time to return to ourselves. And sometimes that in and of itself takes courage. But we need to get back to our hearts and what makes us happy and where do we find joy? How can we reconnect to the inner child within us? And, I think that's a lot of what this full moon is about, is asking us where we can connect with with our joy. And that's a big key. Also, like I've said several times, courage and where we can be more of a leader and things like that. But coming from a heart-centered place and bringing joy into it. How do we bring more joy into the world? Because there's always going to be hard situations. There's always things that we can be focused on outside of ourselves that take us away from our joy. But then what is the point of existing, right? So coming back to center, what makes us happy? What makes us joyful? What makes us playful? Reconnect with that, and that is where the beauty of life really lives. And the more joyous we are, like joy and anger can't really live in the same space at the same time. Love and hate can't live at the same place at the same time. So really, a way to calm this energy down that's so chaotic over here is to reconnect with our heart and love and joy and creativity, right? And that's where solutions to the problems that we're having over here will come, is when we're in that receptive state of love and joy and creativity. So then the only other thing that the moon is doing really is it's in a very wide trine to Chiron and Aries. So this is also kind of bringing our attention and our awareness to ourselves, right? Like my creativity and my joy and my heart, like things I enjoy doing, like the example of a person who enjoys refurbishing furniture, basically restoring furniture. Like that's what her passion is. And maybe she's been told her whole life that that's not good enough, right? That not able to sustain her, or that it's a silly passion to have or something like that, right? Like maybe there's some way that this person has been steered away from developing this passion and engaging with it, or been too busy or something like that. And so this full moon is also, I think, giving us an opportunity to heal these I am wounds that we are all working on collectively with Chiron and Aries. Like, this is who I am, this is what I enjoy, and I should be able to take up space doing and be seen for doing the things that I love doing, right? So I think this full moon is giving us the opportunity to really look at that. Like, I matter, and my joy and my passion matters, and that doesn't mean that I need to broadcast it out into the world. But at the same time, it does mean that, I can and I should be seen, and I will be seen out in the world for it. But I think a key to a lot of the healing that this world needs now is to return to ourself, is to return to our I am. And all these planets are making a sextile to Chiron as well. So there's a lot of healing potential in this full moon of returning to our joy, returning to our passion, returning to love, returning to be courageous, to be ourselves and to be seen, and to kind of be aware of and take part in this outside noise and help be the solution through courage and leadership and stuff like that. But the leadership needs to come from a heart space and needs to come from joy, because like I said, when we're coming from a place of love, there's not going to be hate. When we're coming from a place of joy, there's not really place for anger. So to focus on ourselves and make sure that we're filling our own cups, right? I think this is very much a full moon indicating that we need to fill our own cups first before we are worried about the rest. We need to make sure that we're good, that we're living happy, despite all circumstances. Like, find your joy, find your passion, find your creativity, find the love that's in your heart. Live from an attitude of gratitude, and then from there, and that takes courage too, right? Because a lot of us are so used to being so distracted by the outside world that when we come to really sit with ourselves and ask ourselves, what do I love? What do I find joy in? Like, it's an uncomfortable feeling because we don't know who we are. We've been so disconnected and outsourcing everything that time to ourselves is can feel unstable, right? It's easier to see what else is going on with everybody else and to judge everybody else, but to come back to ourselves and understand ourselves, that's the first key in all of this, and I think this full moon is giving us a chance to do that. The other thing that the stellium is doing is making an opposition to Uranus retrograde in Taurus. Tomorrow, so within 24 hours of this full moon, Uranus will be stationing direct. Or is it February? It's actually 2 days later. Uranus will be stationing direct. But right now it is still in retrograde. So we're still in this process of, the systems kind of, because Uranus rules Aquarius over here, and it's in Taurus, the sign of finances and values and resources and things like that. So we're still in this kind of internal underground shaking of things up, and then when it turns direct in two days, I think we're going to see a bunch of stuff going on in the financial markets, in the resource markets, things like that, as well as, and this is kind of where I want to bring in the video about Stefan Burns, or from Stefan Burns, so this is kind of all on the psychological level, on our personal level, how we can engage with the full moon. And, in your own personal charts, you're going to want to look for where Leo is in your chart, as well as, where Aquarius and all of this energy is. And that's really where you're being asked to balance these areas out, and where things might be showing up for you too, right? Like, there might be you might just naturally be more inclined to find where your joy and your passion and stuff is in whatever area of life this is falling in for you. But what I want to talk about as far as Stefan Burns and his video is kind of all these planets have an impact on our physical bodies, right? That's why medical astrology is a thing, but they also have an impact on Earth. And that is what I want to go into next. So Aquarius rules like technology and innovation and things like that. It also rules the air and airspace, and it also, that and Uranus also rule electricity. And this is both electricity, the things that are powering your house, but also your internal, like your nervous system. So if your nervous system is heightened right now, and, up to the third, when Uranus stations direct, like, that'll be a big energetic shift. So you might feel that on a neurological or nervous system basis. So anxiety might go up, or however you typically feel, however your nervous system typically is regulated and things like that. You might be feeling some intensity there with all these planets here. Anxiety in the collective might be really high. Your personal anxiety, you might just feel wired but tired, or things like that. But then on the 3rd, with this big energetic shift, well, first of all, the full moon is big energy. And then when Uranus turns retrograde, there could be some, or turns direct, there could be some things going on with our electrical grid. And the Stefan Burns video that I want to link below, he's talking about the effect of the geometry of these planets in the actual sky and how they are lined up like this, which is rare, and the effect that they have on our sun. And I just watched a video how he was talking about how the planets are lined up is very, very similar to, and the solar flares that are happening on the sun right now, partly because of how all these planets are lined up, is very, very similar to the Carrington event that we had in 1859, which took out a lot of the communications that were available then and things like that. And if we were to have an event like that now, it could be catastrophic. It can, take out it could take out the internet and all things technology related. It could take out our entire electrical systems. And it could be, smaller events, just localized areas where it does this, or it could be bigger areas. So this, the Carrington event and all these solar flares coming off of the sun is creating geomagnetic activity. And so that's part of the reason why we've had, we've had several storms lately that produce the aurora borealis, the northern lights, able to be seen so far south, right? That's not normal. That's because our magnetosphere is weakening and we have all this solar activity going on and solar wind and solar storms coming toward the earth. And this is not necessarily a good thing. So the Carrington event took out the telegraph system at the time. We've had similar events, not quite to the level of the Carrington event, but we've had some since then. So, for example, in 1989, a geomagnetic storm blacked out the entire Canadian province of Quebec in 90 seconds, leaving 6 million customers in the dark for 9 hours. It also damaged transformers as far away as New Jersey and nearly took down U.S. power grids from the eastern seaboard to the Pacific Northwest. They can disrupt radio communications and GPS navigation, so affecting flight and things like that. And it said, so we had other storms in 2003. Apparently there was one called the Halloween storm that prevented the FAA from providing GPS navigational guidance for roughly 30 hours. So in the most extreme scenario, blackout scenario, it could impact potentially about 66% of the U.S. population because outages, electrical outages, there could be damage to the high voltage transformers that are difficult to replace. So this could lead to years long blackouts for up to 66% of the population, which would, cause major disruptions in financial markets, banking, telecommunications, emergency and hospital services, the pumping of water, fuel, and food. It could be a huge event. And the link to Stefan Burns' video will be in the description below. And it could be, what he's seeing, he's giving it about upwards of a 20 to 30% chance that we might see some type of event like this happening within the next few days. So just something to be aware of. And then looking at the astrology with Uranus representing electricity, both, in our own bodies and in the world. And then all the planets lined up here in Aquarius, which also represent electricity. And when Uranus stations direct in a couple days, that is a big energetic shift for our electricity. And Uranus is also the planet of unexpected events, unexpected things. So there could be some unexpected things showing up as it makes this transition from retrograde to direct. So just something to keep in mind, if you are somebody who suffers with anxiety and things like that, and you're feeling wired but tired, or feeling like your nervous system is a little frazzled, number one, there are reasons for that, but number two, do whatever you can to kind of mitigate that. And again, one way would be to look to this opposition here, which is just returning to yourself and returning to joy, right? Whatever the scenario is going on outside of yourself, try to see the joy in it, try to see the silver lining in it, try to look at it from a place of peace, I guess, and, focus on yourself, kind of is the advice that I would suggest. So that is pretty much it for the full moon in Leo video. I know it's a little bit heavy, but at the same time, it is all about, reconnecting to yourself, reconnecting to what brings you joy and happiness, reconnecting to the childlike center of yourself, reconnecting to looking at the world with joy and wonder and awe, and engaging with those activities that bring you joy, right? Like if the power goes out or something like that, like get out the games and play games with your kids, or just really spend this time to, number one, connect with your heart, connect with the world from a space of love, not fear and hate, connect to your joy, your passions, your creativity, and then really look to see where you can show up with more courage and more leadership, but coming from a heart-centered space. So with that, I hope you have a great full moon. Keep your eyes out for the continued videos that I'll be releasing of the February forecast by sign. I'm trying to get those out as quickly as possible. And again, please interact with this video in any way that you can. It greatly helps my tiny channel grow. I appreciate you, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend.